My cousin did. He actually performed tonight, but he was doing it for 8 months or so, and I was going to school, being lazy on my couch, watching stand-up comedy, and I thought I could do it, and then I noticed. Well, didn't notice. He told me he had done it, so he told me to give it a try, and I did. Garbage. Just terribleness. Just, which for a lot of people it is. From what I hear, that's how I make myself feel better about it. It was not well. I just went up there and I rehearsed a bunch of lines, but it was like word for word what I rehearsed, like sitting in my bathroom mirror, and then went up on stage and tried to say it verbatim, and then I got like halfway through and was nervous and forgot what I said, and when you try to memorize things verbatim, you have like nowhere to go, so it was horrific. There's a lot of Louis C.K. stuff that I like now, but probably Killing Him Softly, Dave Chappelle, just that's what got me into comedy, watching Dave. So his timing is unbelievable, and his jokes are obviously great. So I Am Comedian was a good movie that it had Robert De Niro in it, and it was during the early times of his career, and it sort of covered it. It's not necessarily covers like comedy per se, but it's about a guy that wants to do comedy, and he's sort of socially inept, and he gets his shot, and he makes it big. He sort of takes heist of a show, not to spoiler alert, and he does his set that he's been working on in his mother's house his whole life, and it does well just because the context of the show is that he's supposed to be really famous and it's supposed to be hilarious, and it is, and then he writes a book on it and he gets really famous after. It's obviously not based on a true story, but it's a cool concept that like it's not necessarily how funny you are, even though that's obviously very important, but it's like who you know is a big aspect of it too. So and then as far as shows, Bill Burr has a new show, Family Matters, and that one's pretty funny right now, so that's where I'm at. I feel like Hannibal Buress would be fun to go on tour with. I feel like he would, I don't know, yeah, just because he's done all this stuff with, what's his name, Andre, I completely forget his last name, but I feel like his tour would just be pretty laid back, as I've seen his openers, and he just sort of, in general, his comedy is just like very one-liner-ish, and just, I don't know, he would be just a cool guy to just like, after you finish a show, like even if you do shitty, he would just be like, fuck it, man, let's go get some drinks. Jeff Ross, he has to be, insert him in one of the spots. I don't know where he would be. Bill Burr would be a great guy to get roasted by, just because I feel like he's funny at shit talking people. Ironically enough, I think Bill Cosby would be funny to force him into the situation to roast somebody. I just think he would be fun. I don't know, I've never seen him do a roast, so just putting him in that spot. And he's in a weird spot now. I'm sure he would love it because he would get out of jail for a while. Who the Louis would just because he's so great, I would invite him to the roast just to have him there. Not that he wouldn't do great. And writing would be more or less just because that's the route you sort of have to take as a comedian. Not have to, but it's a very common route. Not everyone can just take the like, I'm doing comedy now, I'm Kevin Hart, you know. So improv is, I like, we did a crowd work show tonight, and I like doing improvisation in whatever I do. Improv as a form of comedy by itself, I don't know. I like the combination factor. I like to do setup comedy and improv. I like to include them both, so I wouldn't like to do improv just by itself. But I think improv would be cool, writing would be cool. I think I guess just for the sake of money, getting into the acting side would be something you do much further down the line. It would be more like get comedy down pat and then attempt at acting and see how good I am. Comedy is so year-based, so if I had to say it to other comedians, I would be like, well, still doing this and trying to get better, but on a personal level, I would like it to be, I would like to be in a city that does comedy religiously, like New York or Los Angeles, just places that are more, there's a lot more comedy there, but it takes a lot more to make it there normally, which I don't like. Everyone always bases your comedy, how long have you been doing it? Have you been doing it for 6 years? If you've been doing it for 7+ years, then you can do this. If you're doing it for 5+ years, then you can be doing this. But I think there's a lot of people that I've seen that have been doing it for 7 years that have gone up twice a week for 7 years, or once a week, or even less. And I think it's more based on how fast you grow, how much you absorb funny, and how often you do it. So in 5 years, I would hope to be in a major city doing headlining, and nothing less than that. I'm Nate Robinson. You just checked out my interview on aqtpie.com. Have a fucking fabulous day.